All right, so let's really unpack that idea. How on earth can a small monthly amount, like 5,000 rupees, grow into a life-changing sum like 1 crore? Well, it's not a fantasy, and it's definitely not a trick. It's a strategy. So let's dive in. So let's start with that massive hook right off the bat. The idea that a small, regular investment, the cost of a few nice dinners out, could grow into 1 crore rupees. It really does sound almost too good to be true, doesn't it? But trust me, the numbers don't lie. And that's the number we're talking about, a genuine, life-altering amount of money. And the best part is, you don't need to win the lottery to get there. All you need is a solid plan. Now, let's be clear, this isn't some kind of financial wizardry. It all comes down to a fundamental principle called compounding. You can think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's small, but as it rolls, it picks up more snow, getting bigger and bigger, faster and faster. Your money works the same way. So what's our game plan for today? First, we'll dig into that 1 crore question. Then we're going to bust some major investing myths that hold people back. After that, we'll talk about the power of SIPs, why being consistent is your secret weapon, and finally, how you can get started the smart way. Okay, so let's kick things off by tackling the biggest mental roadblocks, the things that stop most people before they even begin. And it's a perfectly fair question, right? If the formula is that straightforward, why isn't everyone rolling in money? Well, the answer usually boils down to a few really stubborn myths about investing. Okay, myth number 1. And this is the big one. The idea that you need a huge pile of cash just to get in the game. So many of us think, oh, I'll start investing when I'm rich. But that's completely backwards. Investing is how you build wealth in the first place. Then there's myth number 2, fear. People hear stock market and they immediately think of it as some kind of high-stakes casino where you can lose everything. That fear of risk and complexity, it's paralyzing, and it keeps way too many people on the sidelines. And finally, we have the most dangerous myth of all, procrastination. That little voice that says, I'll get to it later. This mindset is the silent killer of financial dreams, and you're about to see just how incredibly expensive that delay can be. So, how do we fight back against these myths? Well, we use a simple but incredibly powerful tool. It's called a SIP. A systematic investment plan, or SIP, is really just a fancy way of saying you invest a fixed amount of money on a regular schedule, usually every month, into something like mutual funds. It's all about making small, consistent moves instead of trying to make one big, perfectly timed splash. And this is where SIPs become a total game changer. They directly attack those myths we talked about. Don't have a lot of money? You can start with as little as 500 rupees. Worried about risk? SIPs use a cool trick called rupee cost averaging. Basically, when prices are low, your money buys more, and when prices are high, it buys less. It smooths out the bumps. And because it's automated, it builds that saving discipline for you, which is crucial for compounding to work. And that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important part of this whole strategy. It's not about being a genius stock picker. It's simply about being consistent. Check this out. It's a tale of 2 investors. Amit invests $10,000 a month and gets a solid 12% return. Bharat only invests half that amount, $5,000, but he's chasing some massive 20% return. For more than a decade, Amit is way, way ahead. It takes a full 15 years for Bharat to just barely catch up. The lesson here is so important. For a very long time, how much you save is way more powerful than trying to chase unbelievably high returns. This is exactly why that "I'll start later" myth is so incredibly destructive. Taking even what feels like a small break from your investing plan can have enormous consequences down the line. Let's actually put a number on that. Look at this scenario. One person invests $15,000 a month consistently for 30 years and builds a nest egg of about 5.3 crores. Now, another person does the same thing, but over 15 years, they skip just 9 payments. 9. That's only 1.35 lakh they didn't invest. But the final impact? Their final amount is over 40 lakh rupees smaller. That is the insane cost of inconsistency. Okay, so by now, the myths are busted. You can see the mind-blowing power of being consistent. So the big question is, how do you actually get started? Let's walk through the practical steps. First things first, you need the right tool for the job. When you're picking an app to manage your SIPs, here's a quick checklist. Make sure it offers direct mutual funds with 0 commission, has a super simple paperless setup, gives you plenty of fund options to choose from, lets you easily manage your plan, and has good, clear tracking. And look, there are a ton of great apps out there. Some are built for people who love digging into data, while others are designed to be incredibly simple and user-friendly for beginners. If you already have a trading account, there's probably an option built right in. The main thing is to pick an app that you find easy and that you'll actually use. Now, before you jump in, we have to talk about safety. This isn't the Wild West. You need to do this responsibly, and that means following the guidelines from India's market regulator, SEBI. SEBI has these rules for a reason, to protect you. So always make sure you're dealing with registered advisors and take the time to read the documents. And this is a big one. Do not, I repeat, do not take investment tips from random WhatsApp groups or social media influencers. And if anyone ever promises you a guaranteed return, just run the other way. And really, this all brings us back to the most important message of the day. We spend so much time worrying about the market going up or down. But you know what the biggest financial risk really is? It's the cost of doing nothing, the cost of just never getting started. So we've seen pretty clearly how one small, consistent step, like that 5,000 rupee SIP, can lead to a giant leap for your finances over time. So the only question left to ask is, what's that first small step going to be for you? If you want to see how these numbers could actually play out for your own goals, I use a simple SIP calculator app to run different scenarios. I've dropped a link to one in the description below if you want to check it out. Thanks so much for joining me.